In this short and cut video, I'll be showing you all the shortcuts you can use to double, if not triple, your editing speed. In fact, these are all the shortcuts that I personally use on a day-to-day basis, and honestly, it's been a night and day difference, especially compared to when I first started off with editing. Now, before we begin, there is one thing that you should always keep in mind, and no, it's not the fact that you should subscribe to the channel, although that would also be greatly appreciated. It's the fact that your editing speed is directly connected to how much time you spend on your mouse. It sounds weird, but it makes perfect sense and all the difference once you really think about it. The less time you spend on moving your hand on the mouse and clicking things, the faster your editing is going to be. A perfect example to further explain this is cutting. Something simple, something basic, yet something everyone does. Reaching for the mouse, moving the cursor to the place where you want to cut, using the cut tool. It may not look like much, but it's a serious drag, especially in the long run. And yes, you can use the shortcut C to activate the tool directly, but you're still touching the mouse, still moving, and those couple of seconds might not seem like a lot, but it racks up to a couple of hours on the span of the entire project. So first things first, we need to set add/edit and bind it to C. You notice how I didn't tell you to set cut to C and add/edit instead? This saves you precious seconds of moving your cursor and then using the cut tool. And just in case you want to cut something specific like an audio track, you can just select the track with the mouse and then click on C. It just gets the job done so much faster. And speaking of faster, I want you to bind the clear/delete function to Z. Taking your left hand and dragging it all the way across the keyboard just to click on the delete key is a waste of time. I don't care if you're already using a keyboard, it's still precious seconds being wasted. Trust me, it'll take some time to get used to it, but it will make a world of a difference. And while we're on the topic of difference, have you ever had a situation where you're using a tool and then you forgot that you're using the tool, for example, the text tool, and then you try to click on something that ended up creating like 10 graphics layers for no reason? Yeah, well, there's a solution. Bind your select tool to X. And by now, you've probably already noticed that clear, delete, the select tool, they're all on the same layer. They're all very close to each other, and that obviously has a reason. I don't know about you, but I like to prioritize my left hand when it comes to editing, and not just my left hand, the left side of the keyboard. This drops hand travel when I'm selecting different tools or using different functions, and ensures that no matter what I'm doing, my hand is always pre-positioned to that function. At the same time, my right hand is always on my mouse, just so if those rare instances occur when I need to use my mouse, my hand is always ready to go. With that being said, let's move on to markers. Now, markers are a big thing for any editor. They save you so much time, and I always prioritize markers when I'm editing on projects. In my personal experience, V is the best key, see what I did there, to bind the markers. More often than not, I encounter something which needs getting back to or later attention while I'm still cutting the video. You can double tap V to go into the marker settings, in case you didn't know that, you know, just throwing it on the table there. And while we're at it, why not throw in the hand tool, aka B. Rarely do I use the hand tool, I mean, at least in my experience, but that's why I find B the perfect key. Again, you're seeing what I'm doing here, right? Because it matches the urgency of the tool. It's there, you're just gonna have to reach a little further, which is something I can't say about zooming in and out. Now, those shortcuts I use very often. And instead of holding Control or Alt and scrolling, I like to bind the zoom in to 2 and the zoom out on 1. It sounds counterproductive, but once you do, it almost makes perfect sense. This includes effects and the effects controls, which are binded to S and D. Again, that's S for effects, D for effect controls. 80% of the time, when you add an effect, you kind of want to tweak it, so D is right there, just like your address and your search history. It's all right here. And unless you want me to use this, I recommend you subscribe. I know you're watching this video. Max, subscribe. So we've agreed that effects and effects controls are pretty often used in Premiere projects, especially if we're working on large ones. What we also have to agree on is your media library, which I like to bind to F. I think in Premiere it's labeled as projects. Again, you want to bind it to F because more often than not, you're going to have a lot of media that you're going to be importing to the project. So having F on standby mode at all times kind of saves you the hassle of moving your mouse, scrolling to get to the right tab. Again, it's so much more convenient and fast to just have all these different tabs on standby mode on your left hand. I also want to clarify, in case you're unfamiliar with this fact, if you have a lot of folders open in your projects tab, don't need to move your mouse, just click tapping on F and it's kind of going to run through all your folders until you find the right one. Again, this is something that's pretty obvious, but again, I thought I would point it out. Something that's not obvious is the track select tool, not select all tool, the track select tool, which I like to bind to A. Now, just for clarity, I want to point out that I specifically use the track select forward tool. I don't use the entire thing. I mainly use the single track, which is basically Shift A, which is still miles faster than moving your mouse, selecting everything and moving it accordingly. When I did my research, I've actually come to discover that not a lot of my fellow editors actually use this tool. So maybe it's preference, or maybe you have something else bind it onto A that you prefer. I don't know. Maybe it's just me that uses it so often, but let me know down below. Might as well subscribe. I mean, you're already down there if you know what I'm saying. Let's talk about volume, shall we? Now, usually I don't adjust or regulate my audio manually. I have a whole different method, actually a swarm of different methods I use. I probably will make a separate video about all that eventually, but let's say you want to edit your audio manually or you want to lower the volume by a couple of decibels. Well, for that, I recommend you bind that function to E. Now, what if you don't want to go into the audio gain tool and you want to just increase it or decrease it by 1 yourself? Well, increasing the volume by 1 is 4 and decreasing it by 1 is 3. Again, everything has to be on the left side of the keyboard for the fastest and easiest access for our left hand. Now, the next thing on our list is speed. Speed is something we all eventually need to touch when it comes to projects. Let it be slowing it down, speeding it up, or just going through the entire clip faster. Now, for each one of those, I have 3 shortcuts. Number 1 is speed management itself, aka Q. Now, Q allows you to edit the clip speed itself. You can change it to frame sampling, optical flow, reverse, or everything in between. But what if that's not what you're looking for? What if what you're looking for is just going through the clip faster without going into the speed settings itself? In Premiere, this is called shuttle right, which I have set up to H, and shuttle left, which I have binded to G. Now, to be perfectly honest, these shortcuts are not that far positioned from their original location, but again, in the long run, this makes a world of a difference. But what happens when you don't want to go through the clip faster, slower, or in reverse? What if all you're trying to do is just skip a couple of frames forward? Well, for that, Premiere has a function called step forward many frames and step back many frames. Step forward is set to Y and step back is set to T. You notice how these 2 keys are placed on top of H and G? Is it coincidence? No, it's actually convenience. The same rules apply for 6 and 5. 6 being binded to moving 1 frame forward, and 5, as you guessed it, binded to moving 1 frame back. So what do we get? We get H and G to speed up, slow down, or use the clip in reverse. We got Y and T to go a couple of frames forward and a couple of frames back. And if you want to get even more detailed, you have 6 and 5 to make sure your scrubbing / review process is a lot easier and much faster. But what if you're not looking for all that? What if you don't want to speed it up, slow it down, or adjust the speed manually through Q? What if all you want to do is stretch it to just a couple of more frames forward? You use W, aka the rate stretch tool. This tool allows you to spread the clip exactly to the length which you want. And let's be honest, it is miles faster, especially in comparison of you going to Q over and over again to get the clip to that perfect length. Now, if it's a little choppy and a little laggy on the visual side, go to Q, set it to optical flow, and you should be fine. But that does leave us with 1 key on the left side of the keyboard that I haven't talked about that's unbinded. And if you've been following along the video, you'll notice that almost every single key on the left side is remapped except for 1, and that key is R. So what does R do? What can I possibly have to bind with the key R? 1 word: nesting. I mean, it's pretty obvious at this point. Whether you're nesting the entire project for some reason or whether you're nesting things specifically, R is definitely a very good reach. It's sort of like the natural placement for it as well. And naturally speaking, that's pretty much it. Well, it's not it. I still have dozens of shortcuts, which I could probably make another 2 or 3 videos on. But for now, the main ones, the important ones, these are it. Does this mean that the other shortcuts are not as useful or not as important? No, in fact, they are much more important. But if you're just starting out and if you're looking for a quick way to speed up your editing process altogether, these keys are gonna set you up pretty well. And hey, if you have better shortcuts, more suggestions, or you want a part 2 going into those deep dive details, comment down below. And for the love of God, please stop scrolling down below without subscribing. Edging has a specific time and place, and this is not it. Subscribe.